So if there are no questions.
I have one. I apologize. It's
Sure.
just
Sure.
your data samples that you've collected, how recent are they as far as the PGA, the 150 players data samples you're talking about?
Yes, so we had 100 players, which we collected in the first period, which was basically until 2008, and then we had an internal update up to 2010. This was 100 players, and in 2018, we replaced 50% of the old data, and we included another new 50 players, so we added 100 players. So we ended up now with 150 players, which are updated to 2018. And we also looked certainly at the differences between the data set from 2008 and 2018. And there are minor differences. If you're interested, I might also write something on that via email. But basically, it's not a big difference. So it tends to be that aim is a little bit less extreme as in the past. It is a little bit more phase rotation, which you find in the impact zone. It was increasing from 3 degrees up to 3.6 now. So there's more phase rotation out there as compared to the past. And then time-wise, the slopes are slightly slower as compared to the past. But that's only minute, so that's not really a big difference. But if you're interested to get more precise numbers, I could send this to you if you write me email.
No, I was just wondering, because equipment has changed so much that apparently equipment hasn't made much of a difference in your data, which is great.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. So over the years, you can see that there were very different designs of putters, and there were sometimes extreme techniques which were tested. But basically, if you look at data from 2005, let's say, and you compare to today, there's not much of a difference. And the putter designs also are coming back much more to traditional as before. So it turns out that functional wise, the equipment is not necessarily changing your pattern. It is more that you need to fit it in a way that your pattern is becoming more stable. So we think that the equipment is important from a fitting perspective, but basically in the end, it comes back to your pattern. So we don't see that the general pattern in putting changed considerably between these last 15 years. And that's, I think, quite interesting, because even greens have become faster maybe, but the data is roughly the same. We compared our data with, for example, 70 players of Phil Kenyon, completely different data set, and it was almost 100% the same data. That's amazing.
Wow. So in your opinion, a traditional putter like the Answer, which is pretty toe weighted compared to what you see a lot on the tour now, the Spider, which is more face weighted.
Yes.
It doesn't change the gait of the putter. In other words, we don't see a lot. We don't see more action through impact rotation. That is.
Well, so we certainly are involved into fitting also with these players. So if I have a tour player and it's about fitting, and I compare a, let's say, Answer style and a Spider, you see some minor differences. And then the question is not really, is it good or bad, or is this one better as the other one? It is just that you say, well, there is a minor difference, and now what do you want to achieve? Okay, so if you want to achieve some aspects which are more corresponding to the Spider, then you should go for the Spider. But if you are very carefully looking at, let's say, all this feel, all this neutral behavior, which is important for you with regards to feedback from impact, then a lot of players would choose a Scotty Cameron traditional kind of blade style sometimes, as compared to a bigger head, although the bigger head is biomechanical. He has a wider MOI, maybe, a wider sweet spot, but the differences are not too big. So it's coming more back then to preferences also. So
For
what do
sure.
you
I
want to
appreciate
achieve?
that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great information.
Debbie asks, do you ever get into linear or non-linear putters? So you mean the you don't mean the I think the equipment. So you mean the players? What? Debbie, do you mean?
Yeah,
the,
we're instructors and club fitters,
okay.
and so we attack both sides of the process. And so far, for everything that you've said, I really enjoy your system because it doesn't dedicate itself to one way or another. That's how we teach. We're looking at the overall. You can say biomechanics, but the overall putting style of a student. And I've always been of the school, a general school of a putter can help the feel for the natural putter. So if we see more of a gait, which most people do, that is a more natural putting style, is with a gait on it. And to see Tiger Woods go straight up and down, that's kind of funny, because that requires some discipline to go up and straight back and through. That's a spider, but Tiger likes to use an answer style of a putter. He's Scotty all the time.
Yes.
And so that is really cool in the sense that that's what probably helps him stay square and straight down the line is the weighting on that. And he's very meticulous about weighting. So this all makes good sense to me now for what you have. And I like your simple setup. I mean, just the basic setup without all the extra bells and whistles seems to make sense. However, it seems like you'd have to go through the trainings. I would probably really shoot to get the 3 certifications so that you get the full aspect of what you're doing.
Yes, sure. So yeah, I think I would agree completely to what you say, and this is what I wanted to describe with the notion pattern. So I also think you should not only teach corresponding to the pattern, you also should fit corresponding to a pattern to make it more strong. And sometimes it's paradox, and it takes a little bit of time, but if we are honest, we need to respect it.
Yes, sir. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. So if there are no more questions, okay. Debbie said, yes, the putter being right brain or left brain. Well, actually, this is another very complicated topic, and we might do a seminar on that, which is perception and brain activation, and how do you see things out on a putting green? Do you see straight? Do you see curves? Where is the target? And basically, how do you orient to a target? That's a big topic. So we might really step into it. Again, we see a lot of patterns. We see that a lot of setups we find in particular on the tour are relative to their patterns, to the way they see things on the green. So I definitely think there are different ways of perceiving the putting green and the contours and the environment relative to how you are kind of built in a more general way, how you react to environment. So we do a lot of testing for perception to find the best way for you to set up in a way and to see things in a way that they match to the way you perceive things. So there's definitely a lot of potential in going that way also. And this, for example, one simple question is always, should I put a line on the ball or not? And already this is a very difficult issue, and you need definitely to test it, because there are studies showing that if you have 100 players and you put a line on the ball, 50 of these 100 would afterwards putt better, but 50 would putt afterwards worse. but it's the same intervention. So now you need to understand why this line on the ball helps to 50% and is creating problems for another 50% of the golfers. This is a study of John Carlson in Norway. And this has to do certainly with their perception and with their, you might say, linearity of what they perceive if they look at the putting green. Well, eye dominance and face alignment, there are certainly a couple of ideas out there. As far as I see, also Vidal is doing something on that relative to the setup. And we all know that relative to eye dominance, we think that because you orient 90 degrees to the left, and eye dominance will influence how you would, one, look to the target, because with the right eye dominant, you need to look around your nose. You tend to more lift your head as looking to the ball, which would shift the target a little bit to the right at this point. And then also because you want to maybe look a little bit more from behind at the ball relative on the way to the hole, you would also have a different ball position. But again, so to me, this is also not a black and white. So I have some ideas of what is the effect of left and right eye dominance. But in the end, this is again one piece of the puzzle which you need to put together. So certainly we try to clarify the dominant eye, because the dominant eye is also important. If you look down the line, or if you try to identify lines, you should sometimes close the non-dominant eye to not interfere. But it is not, again, a simple formula to say, well, if you're left eye dominant, this is your type of stroke. It's much more complicated. So it's again one piece of this puzzle, which is your pattern. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much for being part of this demonstration. And as I said, let us just communicate if there are any questions. And we appreciated that you booked into our seminar. I think most of you will have logged into the morning in their local time. So I wish you a nice rest of the day and hope to see you soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.